National stands for the Professional Association of Therapeutic Horsemanship, and it's the governing body of therapeutic horseback riding in the U.S. and abroad. They provide certification and training and set the standards in our industry. I'm required to get 20 hours of continuing education every year and maintain CPR and first aid certifications. If you choose a therapeutic riding program other than mine, please ask for the instructor's credentials. Safety is the #1 concern. And there are also some contraindications and precautions with some disabilities in horseback riding. So what is therapeutic horseback riding? It is a form of equine-assisted activity in which children and adults with disabilities are taught how to ride a horse. The primary goal is to teach horseback riding skills and overall horsemanship. Those of you who are therapists may be familiar with hippotherapy, which is different. Hippotherapy is conducted by a licensed speech, language pathologist, PT or OT. There's a prescription from a doctor for it, and they are looking for very specific functional outcomes on the horse. They're not really teaching horseback riding skills. Hippotherapy is billable to insurance, but therapeutic horseback riding is considered recreational, and it is private pay only. Who here participates in running or golf or yoga or some other recreational outlet? We all do. And who's ever described that as their therapy? Our riders experience the same outlet and joy that you do in your favorite activity as they do in horseback riding. Educational, recreational, physical, and cognitive goals may be incorporated into each riding session. My clients are paying for a service and do not get pony rides. Goals and objectives are formed based on needs expressed by the individual or the family member and those that I develop for them, and they can change over time. So our riders have weekly goals, weekly objectives, and long-term goals. Leap of Faith Farm serves riders ages 4 to senior citizens. We have a wheelchair mounting ramp for anyone who needs assistance with a mobility device or just the ease of mounting from a higher position, more level with the horse's back. Our largest population that we see at my farm and in the industry in general are those with autism spectrum disorder. We also serve clients with SPD, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, TBI, spinal cord injury, genetic disorders, learning disabilities, and many more. A couple of years ago, I had a rider who was a double amputee of the knee, and she did fantastic. She was a great rider. So all of our riders do need to have a physician's released sign before they can participate with us, but I have yet to meet anyone I've had to turn away that I could not serve in some way. There are 4 major areas of benefits in adapted horseback riding: physical, sensory, social, emotional, and cognitive. From the physical perspective, the horse's movement mimics the human walk. So the footfalls and pelvic movement, along with the side-to-side motion of the horse, provide riders with low gait mobility, the simulated feeling of walking. We see a normalization of muscle tone and the opportunity to use gross and fine motor skills at the same time. One of the first positive changes I usually see in riders is a change from a curved spine, slumped position to sitting up tall with their shoulders back and opening up their pelvis. So this leads to an increase in core strength, increased endurance, and improvements in posture, balance, and coordination. From the sensory perspective, there's the movement exploration on the horse. The constant input of the horse's movement allows our riders with autism and ADHD to attend to the instructions that they're being given. They don't have to seek that sensory input from somewhere else. The sights, sounds, and smells of the stable and farm environment, and the opportunity to simply be outdoors in nature. So many of my clients are going to therapy day after day, or they're in school and can't run around outside and play after school like their siblings might. So this gives them a chance to be outdoors. And sometimes that outdoor environment is a challenge for my friends on the autism spectrum. Kids today in general don't spend as much time outdoors as I know I did growing up. So the heat, the cold, the bugs, feeling sweaty, getting your hands dirty, and the aforementioned smells can be a lot to get used to in the farm environment. Most of our riders find that they enjoy the horses, enjoy riding so much that they become accustomed to those things. From the social emotional side, we see an increase in self-esteem. And we see an increase in that sense of capability. Riding a 1,000-pound horse, sitting taller than all the adults, and being able to control where and how that horse moves is very empowering. Kids don't have a lot of control over their lives. Add on top of that disability, and we have riders who don't have a very high self-esteem all the time. So it's also true for those who are wheelchair users and they see the world from a belt buckle view, or anyone who has limited mobility or speech. So they're getting a sense of movement and freedom in horseback riding that they can't experience in other activities. Also, you can communicate with your horse without using any words. Or you can use your words even if you don't have the physical strength to use your body. And our great team of volunteers helps you along. Other aspects of horsemanship, such as grooming, leading, carrying saddles and tack boxes, provide an opportunity to take responsible and help the rider understand the bigger picture of what's involved in caring for the horse and look outside themselves a little bit. In regards to companion animal bonding, there's just something special and magical about a horse. They don't judge, they don't lie, they just accept. They don't care if you walk funny or talk funny. For such a large animal, they are very gentle beings, and they seem to understand the special needs of our riders. And I think this is because they're prey animals, so they're finely in tuned to recognize if another person or creature is friend or foe. And they realize in our riders that they're not there to hurt them, and they're very gentle with our riders. Most families report back that their child with a disability is much calmer after their horseback riding lesson for the rest of the day. One parent has reported back that her nonverbal child with autism participates much better in speech therapy if she brings him to horseback riding first. And therapeutic horseback riding also allows the child to develop and progress at his or her own pace. So instead of the frantic environment of some sports, like maybe soccer or basketball, which can be overwhelming for our individuals with autism, or the competitive nature of a sport such as gymnastics, a rider can take as much time needed to reach their individual goals. And I like to think of riding as a discipline, like dance or karate. You start out at the bottom and you work your way up with foundational skills and building blocks. And we do the same thing in the same way each time, which leads to a sense of comfort and routine and stability as well. From the cognitive aspects, the horse is a strong motivator. It's much more fun to toss a ball back and forth from horseback into a basketball net than just with your therapist or parent. It's much more fun to practice colors and numbers and ride to different goals in the arena than just with your mom. So games and activities on horseback help riders achieve specific goals such as following directions, staying on task, and color and number recognition. And those are usually huge goals for most of my riders. The horse provides very concrete feedback if what the rider is asking for is clear or not. The rewards are huge when the horse listens to the rider. And yes, sometimes we have to work through that frustration. So it gives us an opportunity to also work with that child on managing frustration, managing anger, taking a break, not taking it out on our horse. Let's take a deep breath and try again. Sometimes we have letters up in our arena, and sometimes we might spend a lot of time literally going from A to B. But the rewards are great when they're able to communicate with their horse. I'd like to introduce you to my equine partners. They're the heart of the program and the stars of the show, of course. This is Coco. He's a 9-year-old Shetland pony. I've had him the longest for 5 years. He makes our smallest riders feel very safe because he is just their size. Abe has been part of our program for almost 2 years. He's a 20-year-old quarter horse. The star on his forehead is actually in the shape of a heart, which everybody loves. He's very calm and quiet and likes to take naps. They're all calm and quiet. That's what we look for in our horses. Forrest has been at the farm for 1.5 years. He's an 18-year-old bay quarter horse. His kind eyes just draw you in. He's a farm favorite because he'll lay his head on your shoulder, which just endears him to the riders and volunteers. Cowboy is our newest arrival. He's been here since last August. He's a 15-year-old Palomino Appaloosa Cross. He's come to really like his new job because it includes his favorite things, which are lots of attention, lots of brushing, and walking slowly. He loves to trail ride also. And if the riders and horses are the heart of the program, my volunteers are the arms and legs. It's absolutely impossible to run a therapeutic riding program without volunteers. Volunteers serve as horse leaders and sidewalkers during the lessons. The horse leaders keep the riders safe by controlling the horse, but they learn the finesse of allowing the rider to do as much on their own that the rider can. The sidewalkers are there for physical support, emotional support, and as assistants in playing our many games throughout the lesson. The volunteers are a huge part of the positive aspect and the positive experience our riders have at Leap of Faith Farm. They're very encouraging, they're great cheerleaders, and our riders look forward to seeing their favorite volunteers each week. Our volunteers also say that coming out to our farm is their therapy, and that they're having a bad day, their time with us always turns it around. They love to see the riders progress, and it's really great when we have longtime volunteers who've helped for a long time, and they can see maybe just that really small, miraculous moment that happens when the rider says their first word or finally accomplishes a goal, and there's someone else to share that with. And we're always looking for volunteers. Hint, hint. In closing, I'd like to say one reason I chose the name Leap of Faith Farm for our farm is because when I was in the planning process, that phrase just kept coming up. We didn't know if our property that we'd chosen was going to work. We didn't know if we'd get any riders. We didn't know if we'd have any volunteers. We just had to take a leap of faith and hope that if we built it, they would come. I'm also asking parents to take a leap of faith in trusting me and the horse with their child and to try something new that will have a positive impact. So I am happy to answer any questions. I'll also be here, of course, afterwards if you have specific questions about your client or child. We still have spaces in our summer program, which starts next week. Lessons are 30 to 45 minutes long. Our goal is 30 minutes of riding time with a few minutes to brush and groom the horse either before or after, depending on the needs of the rider. And I do ask riders to come out for a prospective client appointment. This gives me a chance to do an informal evaluation, and then the parent or family member can pick up their packet, get the medical release signed, and it allows us to see, is that rider going to be comfortable? We have them try on a helmet. That's usually the biggest sensory challenge for some of our riders. So we have that client appointment to see if it'll be a good fit. Does anyone have any questions for me? All right, we are located in Simpsonville, close to Fountain Inn. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.